Good evening. Welcome to Friday night's vid. If you've made it through my series so far up to the last vid when we talked about trying to lean your rig more towards some type of an interface as an access and a laptop and a head and a cabinet to really take advantage of technology and things like that and all the things that are available to you in that kind of setup, and you've gotten to that point and you getting bored with music, or you're really trying to branch out, or you're the things that there was the video that came before the last video on the guitar rig that was basically about researching music itself and all kinds of integrated things. Now, if you come to a point to where you really are kind of stuck and you're feeling stagnant, you're not really sure where to go, and you feel like you're kind of treading around this Western music arena and you're not really getting anything, nothing's really getting your blood pumping, and you really want to kind of steer away from it, because if you've watched all the videos of my series so far and you've really taken the time to study all the things I've talked about and really have a pretty good understanding of all those things, and you're getting bored from it and you're feeling that you really want to reach into some other things that may be a little bit more exotic or different from things you're happening, because you feel with all the things and all the forms and genres that you've talked about that you really need something more, or you're just not feeling like something's getting satisfied in you. Let's talk about a couple different things you can do to try to investigate, to branch out even further. Alright, so the first thing that I would say to you, we talked quite a bit about scales, and I basically laid out what scales I think you should learn to begin with. Once you get the understanding of scales, and you've got a pretty good understanding of the scales that I laid out when we talked about scales, that using borrowed notes and borrowed chords and things like that will really take you a long ways. But if you really want that doesn't feel like it's satisfying something, because normally if you're branching out any farther than this, that you're trying to use Western music in a way that's trying to branch out more exotic, more than likely, in some way that doesn't feel as confining as some Western music might to you. So what do? You go and find some exotic scales. We've talked about the chromatic scale and things like that, but there are exotic scales. And all the music theory that we've talked about so far, if you take a different scale form and apply all the concepts we've talked about to that new scale, all those principles apply, but you may get a whole lot of very interesting things happening by using some exotic scales. So that's one thing that you can investigate. Investigate exotic scales. You have a really good understanding of Western music and most of the scales that I've talked about, and you're just not getting you need something a little bit more. Start looking at some exotic scales and really investigate what that means. Their tonal chords you can make with them. How does it work? How can you use them? Maybe just modulate to them or something to add some texture, some feel. You might be playing in a major chord. You might be playing in a harmonic minor scale and try to change into some mode of some other scale to do some cool thing in, or play in some other scale completely and compose in it. There's a lot of different things, if you've watched all the videos I put on here so far, that you can integrate exotic scales into things you're doing. If you've learned all those things and you really need something else that's going to add some spice or flavor to it, take some time and investigate some exotic scales. That's the first thing. The second thing is alternate tunings. There are all kinds of different alternate tunings. Alternate tunings can yield a couple things. A lot of times what an alternate tuning will do is it can really open up some ideas that common chord structures and scales that you use, if you run them, that all of a sudden these other doors open that sound unique and strange and exotic, but basically are being caused just from you tuning alternately. Even just a drop D tuning is an example, and it's going to change just one string, or you can change any number of them. So alternate tunings are a really cool concept, and there's a spider capo that you can get that can actually cause alternate tunings in different ways. So check that out. Alternate tunings can be a lot of fun And just for experimentation, you can stumble across things in alternate tunings that can be really cool. That all of a sudden you make this really wild chord or start doing some stuff, and it just kind of lead you off into experimentation again, and you can really make some cool things happening that don't sound normal because of the guitar being tuned different. And not only can you stumble across things that sound really cool, that don't sound really normal, but it may make the guitar sound different because of the different tunings. You lower tuning some things up all over the place. It can cause some exotic sounds to happen on the guitar from it not sounding tuned normally. Even if you're playing close to open and other chordal structures, it can cause some really exotic effects, you know, to happen if you're really getting bored and want to experiment around. So that's the next thing. The next thing after that, I would start really looking into, we've talked about the music, the study of music, and I did a long video on the video before the last one about really investigating all the things that are related to music. But to come back a step, music styles and genres, if you really get into it and really start studying all these different types of styles and genres, this is the page I found on the internet, there are multitudes of them. And then not only there's a multitude that are being used in Western music theory, there's a multitude of exotic music styles that you can try to transpose into Western music theory that can lead into all kinds of very unique experimentations and enlightenments. Half tunings and all kinds like that, half steps, quarter step tunings. you run into all kinds of really strange stuff that you hear that you try to transpose somehow into a Western tuning system that can just lead into all kinds of different kind of things. So along the investigation, experimentation, and really listening to these other music styles and genres can open up worlds of possibilities just from the exposure. Just from the exposure, you might get into some kind of, who knows, I mean, even there's some rap stuff happening, or, I mean, I'm not really into rap a whole lot, no offense, but there's some that's very musical. And, you know, you can pop into things from all over the world doing their take on different things. Some simple things like, you know, here's some Christian rap. But, I mean, it just goes on and on. So all these musical styles and genres, as you investigate them and you really listen to them and all the different branching outs of any different type of style, that the blues, look at the blues, rock, funk, groove, rap, trap, all kinds of funky music, dance music, that thing has blossomed out like a tree just from the blues, you know, and that went back completely away from classical music, and they actually degraded music, getting back to some basic pentatonic scales with an added flat third. Does that make sense? And look at all what they came up with messing around with that simple scale. So, I mean, it goes on and on and on. So really take the time to investigate all these different styles and genres, and it can open up worlds of possibilities. Intermixing them, mixing them together. I mean, you can almost look at all these different things as possible seeds to branch out more, or different colors. You've got this Cajun sound that you blend with this French European kind of trance music that's blended with this classical thing. Who knows, bro? I mean, I know that sounds funny, but that's how new musical forms are born. And the more you investigate it, the more things you can find. You can intermix like a painter's palette of mixing all these things together to come up with all kinds of cool exotic things happening that can just lead into awesome adventures for you in your guitar development of yourself, your technique and style and experimentation. So that's the next thing. The next thing after that, you really want to look into theory. If you've gone through that and you're still, at this point, you haven't gotten off in some other journey and doing fine and you still need to dig deeper, really look at music theory. At this point, that if you watched all my video series up to this point and you've started to incorporate most of what I've been trying to talk to you into your style and genre, investigating all those things and branching out in all those areas, and you're still bored, that really get into studying music theory at this point. I mean, really, you are probably at this point some type of theoretician. You not only is music something that you really enjoy, but the concepts and the developments and the structures and why things work together and how things can work together. That, you know, another huge one is like movie scores. Movie scores are a huge thing because you can go from one landscape to another in a heartbeat. One total different type of style or genre going into a totally different style or genre or era or ethnicity or culture, and there has to be some kind of transition leading into it. That in itself can open up worlds of possibilities. But if you're still not satisfied and you ain't got it there and you ain't got enough to keep you busy, you're more likely leading towards being a serious therotician. And so really at this point understand that you really want to get into understanding music, not just because you like music, but because ever you've come to understanding it, it might open up some new door, you know, and really studying it a lot, you know, and in depth, and understanding music theory, all the concepts from that have been integrated into music theory, where it all has come from, the time periods, how it started, how it's developed throughout history, the concepts interrelated with music theory, and where that's branched out to up to this point in history. That is a huge concept for you to really get in your head and really start studying, because you're more likely leaning towards being a theoretician or at that type of level, which is very advanced normally. And once you get to that point, you're going to basically branch out into advanced theory, advanced music theory concepts, and you're going to start digging out into all those directions around all those things that you've studied about music theory, and start really digging up about music theory concepts. Some of them will be very easy to find. Some of them will be very hard to find. Some of them you're going to stumble across. You'll be like, whoa, Bob in Yugoslavia is messing around with this thing, you know, and he's come up with this mathematical formula that's in conjunction with this. Who knows, bro? I've had some that, you know, they have their wall look like Albert Einstein been writing up there, and they just happy as a clam jumping up and down. And I get a hold of them, they talk to me, and I'm like, whoa, that's really cool, bro. You've come up with algebraic formula for that, you know, and it's like, but I mean, it's cool, but they just are theoreticians, bro, and they try to evaluate things in ways that I don't as much anymore. When it doesn't get me as excited as it used to be, because I started getting audio engineering, and it's like math was never my favorite subject, and I had to do and look at math enough while I was studying audio engineering that it was the formula thing kind of was turning me off. It just started not to feel like music, but it still can be advanced theoretical concepts that can be broken down into the basic concepts that we started out with from the first video in my series and expanded upon. Does that make sense? So it's just like we talked about, that the basics are in math are addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. It's the same concept when you're dealing any advanced theory of any of that. You've got some basic foundations that have been elaborated upon, have been built upon, have been altered, and things like that that create these unbelievable advanced theoretical concepts that theoreticians love to debate and talk about and tinker with and have a blast trying to figure out what they're going on. And sometimes it gets even unmusical. I've seen some people that have taken their guitar and turned it into some kind of weird instrument with erasers and pencils and all kinds of stuff that sound like some kind of weird funky fusion thing during a talk about harmonic resonances that they don't even sound like music to me, but they're having a blast, bro, and to them it's, I don't know, you know, does that make sense? But it's there, bro. So anyway, that's where I would lead you in the next step. So if you can understand that, if you've gotten to the point in this video and you're still starting to branch out and you're getting bored, or that ain't got you keeping you busy enough, these are the directions that I would send you in. And start in those directions and go through those one at a time and really start investigating those areas. And you will find that if you get to the point where you get into you really studying theory and you're really being towards a theoretician, as you start to study that and really get into it, don't worry, after you start digging for a little while, a week, a couple weeks, a month or so, and you really digging into it, you'll find plenty of people that want to argue, debate, and discuss really super in-depth theoretical concepts in ways that are very advanced and complicated, complex things happening to keep you thinking about that for the rest of your dang life. So anyway, don't worry, they're out there and you'll find them to talk with and have a blast with. So anyway, that's the next direction I would send you in. So if you've made it up to this point in the series and you want to get deeper, there you go. Those are the directions I'd send you. I hope you have a blast researching and developing yourself into the best guitarist you can imagine, or becoming one seriously advanced therotician that gives me a call one day and says, "Hey doc, check this out, bro." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." Peace, hope, love. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.